Yeah, going by restrictions and everything else. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for showing up on the session after lunch on Saturday. I think if I wasn't scheduled to be here, I would have already skipped out. So I thought about it, but Darcy told me I couldn't. So I'm Eric Young, the Assistant Director for Information Technology at Salmon P. Chase College of Law, Northern Kentucky University, which is right across the river from Cincinnati. And speaking after me is going to be Darcy Jones. She's the Director of Information Technology at Mercer. And then Dax Phillips, sitting in the back, the Web Manager at Marquette. And we're going to be talking today about managing student organization websites. I'm focusing on gaining and retaining control and trying to give you a model for maintaining student organization websites. I see three different levels of managing student organization websites. And I think Darcy and Dax might have slightly different definitions for two of the models I'm talking about, but I think they're pretty much close to the two of the models I'll mention. I'm going to focus on administrative control. And I see that as the administration, whether that's the law library's IT staff, whether that's the IT staff that reports directly to the dean, controlling every facet of the student organization websites, from creation to updates to contacting the student leadership and getting them to give you stuff. Then I see a flexible model, which could include something, for instance, the law school provides student organizations with one template that they can update on their own. So you no longer have the student organization site sending you information update, they're doing it on their own. Or the other control model, which is the organization control. And in this model, you have the student organization basically controlling every aspect of their website. Now, you might do this through maybe a content management system, so you still have a lot of control on their website through that, but they're doing everything on their own. And again, I'm focusing on the administrative control model, which is what we use at the Chase College of Law. Where we were, I'm not going to go into a deep discussion of the history of Chase Law School and the student organization websites because that will get rather boring, but I want you to see briefly where we came, or where we started and where we've wound up. In 96, 97, we had, in my opinion, nothing but an ugly list. And I can show you briefly the ugly list so that you know I'm not joking. This was it. Just a hideous list. And all that you got was a paragraph. That was all we were providing about student organization websites. Nothing else. So even the Law Review did not have its own website other than this paragraph that was housed on the law school's main page, or on the law school's website. And then look, in 98, 99, we still had an ugly list. It was just different colors. I won't show you the ugly list. Trust me. It's just an ugly list, except it's blue and red now, instead of the hideous pink salmon background that we had before. And in 00 to 02, an even uglier list. Trust me. And I'll show you the even uglier list. Here it is, and you can see that even our HTML tagging back then was not very good because it was all screwed up. So we had a lot of problems. But again, basically, a listing of the student organization websites with a paragraph. Although in 0002, mostly in the latter part of that time range, we had some elements of administrative control. And what I mean by that is the law review had a website that we developed for them. And again, HTML tagging and problems with the website. But we were starting to try to assert some control, at least over the law review, which we saw as probably the most important student organization at the university. And here, we actually started to have links to the editorial board, the issues that were coming out that year, etc. We also had elements of organization control at this time. And here you see the Moot Court Board's website. Isn't it beautiful? And they had some stuff to the Grossi competition, which is the inter-school competition. Just to let you know, you see this says 2000 Grossi competition. This site existed for the Moot Court Board up until about 6 months ago. So they were still advertising the 2000 Grossi competition in late 2003, early 2004. Why administrative control? Why should you, whatever that is, whether it's the IT department or a librarian, why should you take control? Obvious reasons. It promotes consistency. You don't have the Moot Court website looking the way it did and the law review site looking the way it did. You have sites that look the same. And we all know that's important when you're visiting any website. You don't want to go to somebody's website and you click on one link and it looks completely different. We all learn basic HTML design. You want to have some type of consistent branding across your pages. Promotes currency. You don't run into the problem we had with the Moot Court Board. It says 2000 Grossi competition and 2004. That's bad. When you have control, you can make sure that student organization websites are up to date. The other reason why you want administrative control is just the leadership turnover that's inherent in student organizations. At best, you might get a leader of a student organization in there for 2 years, maybe 3 if it's a smaller organization. But on the Moot Court Board, your president's going to change every year. On the law review, your editor-in-chief's going to change every year. That does not facilitate promoting consistency or currency when you have people changing every year. Plus, organization sites represent the school. That's probably the most important thing. The law review is a part of the law school. The Moot Court Board is part of the law school. The Black Law Students Association is part of the law school. Even smaller student organization websites or organizations, for instance, at our school, the Women's Law Caucus is a fairly new organization that's just really starting to come into its own. It represents the law school. You don't want some hideous page out there with outdated information. A prospective student visits your site. One thing they're probably going to be interested in is there a gay and lesbian organization? Is there a women's law caucus? How good is the law review? If they go to your website and they look on the law review's website and all it has is a paragraph, you can't get very excited about it. Or if there's nothing about the women's law caucus, well, you might not want to go there. You might decide you want to go to the school that's 50 miles away, for instance, Cincinnati, which is only 5 miles away. They might decide to rather go there because they have good student organizations. And then recently, it's been within the last year, there was a discussion of this on Technoids. Just a brief discussion, and this is a quote that I took from someone else at another law school who I am assuming was using the administrative control model. And they indicated they're begging for content, but they get very little, and they have great hopes for the future. So, I decided I did not want to be in that situation. I did not want to be begging and getting little and hoping for the future. I wanted to have my future right now and not have to hope for it. I wanted it to be real and happening right at the moment. So how did we begin the control? And this all started happening about a year ago at our law school. What I did was I just started contacting and recontacting student leadership. And that literally involved phone calls to some of them every day. Walking up to their office, letting them know that I'm willing to do this for you. I'll create the website for you. All you have to do is give me the information. If that didn't work, or even simultaneously contacting the student leadership, I also contacted the student or staff advisor and said, look, your student's organization either has no website or they have a hideous website. You know, you need to get on their case. I've been trying to talk to them. They're not listening to me. You need to do it for me. The other thing we did is highlighted the organizations that already existed. Remember I said we kind of claimed control of the law review fairly early in this process, and I showed you the first model of the law school or the law review's website, and it got much better, and I was able to use that to highlight to the student organizations, look what the law review has, and look what you have, or look what you don't even have anything. So I used the sites that I started to develop as encouragement for the other organizations to get on board. Then I highlighted the organizations that didn't exist. And what I mean by that is basically in conjunction with highlighting the ones that did exist, just calling up the ones that don't exist and say, look, you don't even have a website. You know, if you're an active organization in the law school, you need to have a website. And one way that I encouraged those organizations is I deleted references from the law school's website to organizations that weren't active. I said, look, we're not going to let you have your website up any longer. It can be up there, but we're not going to link to it. The law school is going to make no reference to your website. Okay, so if someone wants to visit the Black Law Students Association website, they're going to have to just know what the address is, because we're not going to link to it any longer, because it's 3 years out of date, it doesn't look very good, you know, and that was a motivation for them to maybe start thinking that it was time for them to do something. And by the way, I kind of did this all on my own without any authority, but I figured, what the heck? You know, sometimes I've found it's better just to do things and then wait to see what kind of trouble I get in. And it seems I'm constantly in some type of trouble. But I'm not very good at dealing with the trouble I find myself in. And then an important thing is facilitate means to communicate updates. You can't take control and not have some process in place so that the organizations can give you the information you need. And when we first started to gain control, I was doing all the web page work, and subsequently we've hired what we call a media service designer who does web pages. And so the process we have is basically email. Email us your updates to the media services designer. Email us pictures you've taken at an event. We'll get them up there for you. You know, email us whatever information you have, whatever you think is appropriate, email it to us and we'll try to get it up for you. And then just having an open door policy. My door is open to the student organizations. You know, I encourage them to come down and talk to me, to visit with me, to express their ideas about web pages, what they think should be on them. That doesn't mean I'm going to do what they suggest, but I want them to feel comfortable to come down there and give me their ideas and opinions. Okay, now that you've begun the control, how are you going to maintain it? Because that's tough. Let's say you spend 3 months, you get the Women's Law Caucus's website up and running, it looks really good. Well, that's nice, but 6 months from now, chances are it's going to be out of date. Okay, they're going to forget about it. They're not going to think about it. They don't care. You know, law students are busy people. So how do you maintain this control? A lot of it's the same thing we did when we began the control, and that's facilitate communication. Do the same things that I talked about earlier. Walk up to the organization's office. You know, have them email you. Email them. Call them. You have to be accessible. If you're not going to be accessible to the student organizations, and then this is not going to be a successful model for you. Sometimes you have to, I say here, hassle, jostle, probe, and pry. You have to become good at that. And it's a pain. I feel like my mother sometimes, right? When I was a little kid, you know, my room was dirty. She's always telling me about it. She's probing me. You know, what'd you do at school today? She's asking me questions about it. She has to yank the information out of me. You have to get into that mode if you want this to be successful. And they sometimes don't want to talk to you. They don't have time. They think you're a pain in their butt. You know, they don't understand quite how important it is that their page stays up to date. And you have to be enthusiastic. If you're not enthusiastic about their website, then why should they be? You know, especially in this model where you're the one that's controlling the site. If you don't care that it's out of date, then why do they care? So if it's been 2 months since you've called them to ask them if anything new's happened, if they've had an event and they have some pictures to add, then they're going to forget about you and you're going to forget about them. So you need to be excited about what it is you're doing. And then again, something we did in the beginning, the control phase, you continue to do in the maintaining the control phase, and that's highlight existing organization sites. So if the SBA's website is really good, and the Law Review's website is starting to falter, you call the law review guy and say, look, the SBA president's putting you to shame. You know, you need to get on the ball here. And I say that, shame if necessary. That works. Because you're in law school, nobody wants the editor-in-chief, who is the smartest person in the law school sometimes, or the most popular, at least smart plus the most popular maybe, of the smart people, doesn't want to be outshined by the SBA president, you know, who might not be as smart as they are, or might not be as popular as they are. So shame them if necessary. Let them know, you know, look, President so-and-so is calling me up and sending me all these events all the time. Look how good their site looks. You guys are starting to look like crap. And I don't sugarcoat it. You know, I tell them, you guys are starting to look really bad. And then you have to have institutional support if you're going to use the administrative control model. My boss is the associate dean for the library. And I had to have his support. I had to have him buy into the fact that you're going to allow me and the employees underneath me to spend time updating student organization websites. Without that, where would we have been? You know, if he didn't allow me 5 hours a week or 6 or whatever it took, it wouldn't have worked. So that's extremely important. Where we are now. So this is what I will highlight a little bit more than where we used to be, because I think we're starting to get much better. Okay, we are at the point where there's full administrative control. No student organization website can exist unless we control it. They can't get space on the server. If they do try to put one up, we'll take it down. They can't buy space on a commercial web server and put their website up. If we find it there, we'll tell them they have to take it down. We have totally controlled student organization websites at this point. The existing sites, as I said earlier, email the updates. That's really the main communication method. And that works really well. They email my assistant and CC me in case my assistant's out. You know, I can go ahead and do the work. But if he's only going to be out a day or two, I just push it off to the side and wait till he gets back. I figure a day or two delay is not so bad. You know, my goal, I shouldn't say this, but, you know, as little work as possible, that's great life. You know what I'm saying? So if I can push it off on somebody without making them too upset, then that's my goal. Okay, infant sites must meet with the media services designer. Infant sites are ones that haven't really come into existence yet, is what I mean by that. They have to sit down with my media services designer so that he can go over what it is that he expects of them, how they're going to communicate with him. And then I sometimes pop my head in at that meeting and let him know, you know, if Heath's not around, I'll try to help you as much as I can, etc. And then conveniently, you can't find me. I don't know where Eric went. I haven't seen him all day. Okay, we've basically gone from 0 to 6 fully developed and current organization websites, which for our law school is a pretty big deal. You know, we're a law school of 450 students with a night program, students who are very busy. We now have 6 actively and completed organization websites, which I think is pretty good for us. And if we click here, regardless of the website problems that are occurring here, obviously, we still have a list, right? We have a few schools or a few organizations listed that don't have a website yet, but you notice we now have a lot. The Black Law Students Association, which is here. And you'll notice when I click on another one, the Northern Kentucky Law Review, they're all looking fairly the same. And that's because it's hard if you're going to keep 6 different types of websites. I mean, our student organization websites look basically the same. Navigation on the left, header on the top, text in the middle. Okay? The SBA's website has really started to, I think, be one of the best websites, at least in keeping current. And you can see that my media service designer is obviously doing a lot of work. If you click, like, for instance, on the events gallery. And they're fairly up to date. The last major event they had was the Barristers Ball in March. And, I mean, we have 12 pages of photographs. Which, believe me, this is an alumni, this is a money-generating thing. You've got good student organization websites. You have alumni visiting these web pages, and they see, look, the students are active. That makes them excited about their law school once again, and they want to start giving money. So I'm excited about our organization websites now. As I said, we have the 6 that are fully active, and they're emailing updates sometimes almost daily. And then I said, yet a list still exists. So we still have 4 or 5 who, we have them on the list now because we are in the process of building a web page for them. So they should be up by the end of the summer. We should have about 10 fully developed and current organization websites. Okay, obviously there has to be issues and questions in the administrative control model. What are the problems? What things have happened? And the big thing is, are the student organizations your boss? Okay? Now you have student leadership emailing you and telling you, I need this up by tomorrow, I need this up by next week. Right? Why haven't you done this yet? And how do you handle that? If you have an overinflated ego like I do, you don't want the editor-in-chief calling you up and being bossy. And we had this experience just this year, the pushy editor-in-chief on the law review. He wanted to totally revamp the way the law review's website looked. And he went all the way up to the dean with this. And obviously my stance was, we're not going to change it, because we have full control. We want something that's easy to maintain, easy to update. We want it to look like the rest of the organization websites. We do change some color schemes so that you have some uniqueness to your site, but still the basic structure is there. And this was a battle, which I did end up winning, but still it was a battle. And I convinced the editor-in-chief that for the good of the law school, he should keep it the way it is. We don't want him changing, because then SBA is going to call us up and ask for change, and then Black Law Students Association, the Women's Law Caucus. And then we're going to be in the boat we were in 3 or 4 years ago. And kind of going along with this is time management. Who comes first? The faculty member that calls you up and he wants on his bio that new article that he just had published in Notre Dame Law Review? Or do you do the student organization website who now sent you 10 pictures of an event that they just had and they want it up there? Who do you do first? And you kind of just got to make a decision there. On the facts that I just gave you, I would do the student organization website first. To me, that's more important than the fact that Professor so-and-so has published an article in the Notre Dame Law Review. That can come next week. Okay? What's more important is for our alumni and current students to see that our student organizations are active and vibrant. Written policies. This was the big push last year for me. We have all these things I'm talking about, but no written policies. And we have a web team for the whole law school that a couple of associate deans sit on, and myself, and a few faculty members. And I was pushing written policies. We needed to get this stuff written down. That was a huge failure. And I don't know why, but there's a lot of arguments on the web committee. Faculty members didn't agree with what we were wanting to do. Associate deans had their own ideas. I wasn't budging on what I thought should happen. It was just a mess. Things we were trying to do, at least I was trying to do, in the written policies is authorization. Some type of formal mechanism where a student organization site can be authorized to exist. Whatever that is. And I was suggesting that they have to get approval from the associate dean first, who then will contact us, the designers of the web pages. That failed. Sufficient notice. What is sufficient notice for the organization? Is it a day before they want something up? No, I was pushing for 2 weeks. That failed terrifically. Content. How are we going to manage the content? Are we going to put anything that the student organization wants up? Right now, I'm basically the editor, and I'm deciding I don't think that's appropriate. I do think that's appropriate. But I don't think that's really my job. And I was trying to find a mechanism, I was trying to suggest one of the associate deans reviews the content. Refusal. What's the process for refusing to put content up? I've done that on a number of occasions, and I'm the one that gets yelled at and looks bad and has to go up and explain things to people. I wanted to get that out of I didn't want I didn't want anybody to be able to touch me. I wanted to get someone else to be the official person who refused the student organization, whether it be content or pictures or et cetera. And then my suggestion, my question that we're battling with at the law school right now is a CMS as the solution, and I think you'll see Darcy and Dax maybe talk slightly about a CMS and that being the solution. For us, it's a financial question. We've looked at Omni Update as our CMS solution, and then you can let the students do everything, and then you can just kind of approve the content at that moment. But it's something that the Associate Dean has not agreed to purchase at this moment. Final words for us, the size of the law school we are, the number of web pages that exist besides the student organization websites, full administrative control has been a winner for us. We have really good, I think, student organization websites now that are really promoting the law school. And other than maybe moving to a CMS, I don't want to change what we're doing. And I just think it's been a big success. And I think that this model can work for all of you out there if you decide you want to do it. It's a lot of work, and you have some of the issues I was talking about, but otherwise it's been a big success. That's it for me. Now Darcy.
Okay, the model that we use at Mercer is slightly different. What happened at Mercer's law school is when I started there about 3 years ago, there were absolutely no student organization websites at all. And I say that with the exception of Law Review. Law Review did have a website, but Law Review is in such a different situation than the other student organizations. I don't think you're going to find a student who will say, they've been invited to Law Review, and well, I'm not going to join because your website isn't up to date. Whereas the other student organizations really have to market their organizations and what they can do for students. And to say that they didn't have any sort of web presence at all is incorrect. There was an online posting system that students still use today. It's called the Campus Community Center, and they can just post their announcements. So if there was a meeting of that student organization, or if there was the Association of Women Law Students, for instance, always has a charity ball every year, and the Barristers Brawl tickets for SBA, those things were available on that online posting system. But if there was any place where you could find out who the officers were or what sorts of events that they did every year, nothing like that existed on our website. The challenges that we faced when deciding what to do about the student organization websites was who was going to do the updating. Mercer is about 440 law students, and there are only 2 of us in the IT shop. I basically take care of all of the web programming and everything else, the budgeting and everything else that goes on. And I did not want this to be a lot of administrative overhead for me. So we had the choice between whether or not we give this responsibility to the IT staff or whether we give it to the students. If we gave it to the IT staff, we had the concerns about the limited staffing, and we also were concerned about what kind of student control there would be over this. We wanted them to be able to have a buy-in, to feel that they were in charge of this, that they needed to update their information, and they were in charge of their sites. The student concerns, though, however, was we knew we would have students with varying levels of technical skills. And how are we going to be able to accommodate them without having sites that were the most basic sites that were created with something like Netscape Composer, and then to have the other site, like the Intellectual Property Law Society, who would have JavaScript and everything else. And also, we wouldn't have any sort of control over the content that was on this site. The overriding concern, and this was certainly something that came from our dean, was we needed to have a consistent look and feel with the rest of the website. I was previously at another law school where the students all had their own websites. We just gave them access to the web server and said, go for it and see what you do. And they all looked very different, and there were all sorts of issues. They were putting, copyrighted material up on their sites that they didn't have permission to be using for the Mardi Gras party and things like that. And the question then came, if you just happened to notice it, you could say something to them, but then who was supposed to say it and at what level were they supposed to say it to them? But the consistent look and feel, certainly from the members of the administration, was perhaps our biggest concern in making sure that they were updated and were representative of the law school. So we decided on the student template model. And with that model, this consistent look and feel, we thought, would be met. Anyone could be the webmaster for their organization, and they could have minimal skills while maintaining that consistent look with that single template. Additionally, it also gave our students the feeling of buy-in and responsibility for their sites, which was something that was extremely important to us. The way we set it up is that I go in and I talk with student organization leaders. They always have a luncheon at the beginning of the year with the Dean for Student Affairs. And I go and I sit in on that luncheon, and I explain to them the website process, and I ask them to appoint who their webmasters are going to be. And this was how I did it the first year. That way, and I said, if you already happen to know who they are, go ahead and write it down and let me know, and I'll give them security onto the site. And there was a little bit of peer pressure with that, and that's a lot of what Eric talked about. If you can't get them to really be excited about it themselves, shame them into doing it. And that was kind of what was going on around that room. People who hadn't really thought about how they would use a website were suddenly seeing that all the other organizations were using them. Also, the other thing I wanted to do with this, to keep that student buy-in and responsibility, as Eric mentioned, I don't want to be the person who goes in and tells them, take this off your site, and I don't want to review the content, and I just don't want that to be part of my bailiwick. So what I asked the SBA to do is to have a liaison from SBA who was in charge of looking over these sites, and that person would be the one who would work with me to work with the student organizations, and to have that kind of student presence there to say this isn't appropriate. The other thing that's important to remember is the Student Bar Association, at least at our law school, has a little bit of power over the student organizations in that they can approve lots of funding for them. And that is something that, when you go and you tell the SBA, I want extra funding to do this, one of the things the SBA is going to look at is they're going to look at your website and see if it's updated, what kind of a presence you have, and just how much of an integral part of the student experience your organization is before funding is approved. So this all kind of ties in nicely together with having that SBA liaison. Also, with our limited staff investment, we wanted students to be able to update their sites when they wanted to update them. We don't have to worry then about the time management issues that Eric was discussing. They do it on their own time and when they want. They can do it from home. They don't need to do this from a law school computer. And they have control over what's updated and when it's updated. And I don't have to hear, we're having this event tomorrow, please put this up now, and drop everything else about what you're doing. They can do it themselves this way. The first year, the timeline of how we rolled this out was in September. I met with the student organization leaders and asked them to appoint their webmasters for their organization. Then in late September and early October, I then got a list of those webmasters for the organizations, and I had conversations with them and communicated with them about setting up training sessions and then setting up the security so that they could update their websites. In October, I offered 2 training sessions for the webmasters, just based on everyone's availability and schedules. And then in early April, after this first year, after October, everyone was up and creating their own sites after that training session. But the problem we had then was, what's the best way to make sure that the transfer of people who were in charge of the site was a little more fluid. So now it's in early April, now that it's all up and running, I go and talk with the student organization leaders in early April before their elections and say, okay, think about who the webmasters are going to be for next year. That needs to be at least a part of your election process. If you want to appoint, the new president of your organization needs to be in charge of this and to realize that's going to happen. And then in late April, I can provide the training sessions so that over the summer we have a fluid transfer of power for that website, and there aren't several months where there's no information, with there's new officers and things like that. Because part of what will happen is if I don't meet again until September with the student organization leaders, the problem is incoming students don't know what the organizations are doing, don't know who the officers are. This way we can get them ahead of time. In the training sessions, the things that I talk with them about are the different fields that are available in the template and what's available for them. Also talk to them just about basic HTML commands, and I'll show you how this template looks and what the students see. We want to incorporate a product that we've purchased called eWebEdit Pro this year. Everything of ours is created using Cold Fusion, and I don't know if any of you have used eWebEdit Pro, but it's similar to what you see on like the Lexis and Westlaw course pages. You don't really have to know the HTML commands at all. In the training, I give them the very simple ones, and they go from there. But with eWebEdit Pro, I won't even have to do that next year. Also, I talk with them a little bit about how to manipulate images. I talk with them about what's available as far as Adobe Photoshop and things like that at one of our multimedia computers in the lab. Show them how to do scanning of their brochures and things like that so they can stick them up on the website. And also how to convert documents to Adobe for the website as well. So let me go ahead and log on so you can see what we do here and what the template looks like. And then students have a log on, and this is just with NT Security.
You mentioned alumni. Do they retain their access?
The alumni will only retain through the summer, and then in the fall I take off the administrative rights to be able to change the website. But I do that over the summer. And generally I let them kind of tell me, the new leaders, with how they want to handle that. I tell them all, everyone's going to lose access in August who was previously the webmaster. If you need something differently done, let me know. So for instance, let's look at the Mercer Law Republicans. You may guess in Macon, Georgia, they're pretty popular. Here's the template that they have. At the very top, I have just an HTML code helper, and this is just letting them know some very basic codes in case they forget. And I give them a nice handout as well of what some of them are. Here's their student organization name. This area is if they want to include a photograph of their student organization members. It shows up in the upper right-hand corner if they do want to have a photo. And in the training I give them a recommended size for what's going to look good on the site. I have an area here for their organization description, an area for them to list their officers and to provide their email addresses. I have an area here for upcoming events and activities, and I should note all of these areas are voluntary. They can either choose to fill them out or not, just whatever they want to do on their website. Also, I have a user-defined category, and this is in case they want information that's up on the site that I don't have a specific category for. And they wanted to have something about their previous events up there as well, so they added that. Also have an area for them to post a newsletter, and then once they post, they can just delete as they want to, just by hitting the delete the newsletter link. There's also a place for photos, which is very, very popular with many of the sites, and also a place for them to post their bylaws and delete them if they have posted bylaws, and then website addresses if they want links to other areas. And just to see how this one would look after it's completely done, as you can tell, we have the ugly list too. It doesn't seem to be a better way of handling that. And this is how their site is. There they have their photo with Governor Perdue, and then they have their officers listed, their events and newsletters, their website addresses. One thing that I had originally done when I set this up is I had set up the newsletters and kind of just with the basic assumption that they were going to take images and put them in just a word processing document and just click on that for a page. And it was called newsletters and photos. And none of them wanted to do that. They found it much easier just to post the actual photo up. And so I said, well, we'll go ahead and create a little photo area for you then. And I think the Association of Women Law Students has quite a bit of that up. They've got a number of photos that they have just showing different events that they've done. And this is a nice place to advertise the different types of photos or different types of events they have and what kind of participation from their organizations that they have. That's basically how we've done it. Some of the issues that we've had is that you'll notice this is all set up in a database using Cold Fusion. And one thing they don't like is here we've got they don't have their own unique URL that's easy just to type in. And I've had a few complaints that they'd kind of like their own unique URL instead of having to go and click on student organizations. The other issue is, of course, whenever you have this sort of a template system, is you do have users who are much more technically savvy who would like to do a lot more customization. But then you have to talk with them about the diminishing returns. If we get back to the situation where everyone looks different, then we then start losing our consistent look and feel. And I tell them within this template system, I don't really care what they do to try and make it look better. And I give them they have a place to post other URLs if they do want an outline bank posted somewhere else, for instance. And if they do want to have a site that has special capabilities with discussion forums and things like that. So we do give them those options. So that is the Mercer model. And I'll hand it over to Dax now.
You can go get a Coke or coffee if you'd like at this point in time. Just kidding. But come back. Has anyone heard any good jokes today or over the week that we can share?
Downtown.
I wanted to be the odd man out here, so.
What I did with eWebEdit Pro is I put up a trial version of it for a month and had students use it, had some of our staff use it on some of the areas that we have set up with Cold Fusion for them that they update. For instance, all of our course pages and things like that. And everybody really loved it. It interfaced extremely well with Cold Fusion. And from what I understand, it is an extremely popular product that ties in well with Cold Fusion.
Yeah, we're actually currently using that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be honest, where Macs are concerned, we basically just don't support them at all, and we are really just a Windows environment. I think I've got about 2 students who have their Macs, and I've got 1 faculty member who has a Mac. But as far as any sort of support or anything like that, we just tell them we're a Windows shop, and sorry. So, and we do tell students that before they even come in and come on board, so that has not been a problem for us yet. Does anyone else have any questions before I turn it over?
Okay, well, let me welcome myself here, or you can welcome me. I'm Dax Phillips. I'm the web manager, Marquette University Law School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And today I'm going to extend some of what we're doing about managing student organizations. Similar, but a little different here. Brief history. We've had the list on the Marquette website since about 1999, and there were brief descriptions and really no real content. looks identical to pretty much the list that we see on most law school websites. Had a brief description, brief mission, and the current president. Well, in 2001, 2002, the student organizations went elsewhere for hosting. They kind of disappeared. We still had the list, but there was no management effort done to get them a more robust web presence. And of course, this caused branding issues. You would visit it once you found it. You didn't know where you were. You didn't know that you were part of the Marquette brand. And the content was never updated from year to year, day to day. It was just they wanted to tinker, and they kind of left it, let it just die, really. So this is kind of what happened from 1999 to early 2003. And in 2002, 2003, we did a complete redesign with a focus on content management, student organization buy-in. We wanted to have them come back. We had everything done via the web browser, so students would not have to learn a third-party tool. We offer them a news and events component that allow them to publish news and events that would trickle down to calendars throughout the law school website, and it offered a consistent look and feel. So in 2003, a complete launch, more dynamic, all database driven, through a homegrown content management system. So I called it Happy New Year. I guess June 2003 was a Happy New Year for the law school. During that summer term, a letter went out from the Director of Student Services to all presidents of student organizations, basically informing them that they have new roles and responsibilities, one of which is to manage content via their student organization. Technology was also present at the student org fair that we have during orientation. Excuse me. Tables were set up. We kind of show them where they're at on the website and what they can do at that level. So this is kind of where we house the student organizations. They are able to register online, do funding online, a whole bunch of fun stuff. We also categorize them and then offer them to click into the particular student organization. So we have this main wrapper, this main branding of the Marquette University Law School, but we offer them breadcrumbing. We offer them a home page where they can do a whole handful of things. And with that content management system, excuse me, we have a login component. So when the president elected the lucky person to manage content, similar things happen like you do at Mercer, that we set up groups and permissions, and we allow them to log into the website. Once they log in, they have a nice post-login page that allows them to, if they are a content manager, to manage content based on the manager pages. So clicking on this allows and shows the student all the pages that they have access to. It goes through, they can update their home page if they like. They can see all the pages that they can edit. There's a page ID that's basically their unique ID on the web page. It has an edit icon that goes through these page templates that I'll talk about here shortly. Another icon that allows them just to get directly into the content and start plugging away, or that allows them to use the duplicate feature that basically add new pages based on current page settings. So it has some flexibility at that point as well. These are the page templates that I'm referring to. Currently, we have 20. It could be 30, it could be 200, it could be however many, it could be infinite, basically. But we decided on 20 to say, what else would you want to do? We offer basically a text-only, the little colored squares are basically for graphical elements to choose from. So there's photo gallery opportunities, there's kind of newsletter opportunities, you name it. It so happens that probably there's about 8 to 10 that are really just being used all the time. So clicking into, I've clicked the text only. A student can actually go in, copy their meeting minutes or whatever from a Microsoft Word document, a TextPad document, whichever. They can do HTML at this level, but it really kind of, once they implement that, it gets submitted directly into their little shell within our wrapper. If they don't know HTML, I do one-on-one training or group training with the student organizations every year, but there's a text formatting help button that shows them how to do the basics of HTML. There's also a nice spell check feature as well, so if they didn't spell check in Microsoft Word, I give them one more opportunity before I have to maybe find the typo myself. So upon the preview and the submission, they get a nice preview to say, okay, well, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, or no, I want to make some changes, or I want to bold something. We give them the opportunity to go back and edit. They can delete it entirely if they don't want the page, or they can go ahead and submit it. And upon submission, they get the actual live page. Now, upon that submission as well, an email gets directed to myself or whomever, it could be anyone, saying that Matthew Pauly has updated the meeting minutes for 2/17/04 based on the page title that they put in. So if I have some doubts about Matthew's publishing skills, I can go ahead and view that, make necessary changes if he has a nice blinking text or something really bizarre going on in his content. I can go ahead and police that if I want. So some other templates we have going on with the 28 student organizations, I believe, is they can put in their own photos. When they do select their photos, there's a nice scaling option within the content management system. They really don't have to know much about Photoshop or any graphic tools. They can scale it down accordingly. Otherwise, the system will scale it down for them if they to fit within the dimensions of the website. They also have the ability to add the news, which I'll discuss here in a bit. A great example of a photo gallery page for events that they have complete ownership over. Another format that uses, this template, and they have hyperlinks that go into more details about that event and the photo gallery. And then back to the news and events. I really think the buy-in from the student organizations were the ability that they have control over their events. And, when a student organization member said, hey, why is their event on the homepage, or why is it on the main event calendar and ours is not, that really they started to take notice. And, that's the word-of-mouth marketing that I was referring to. So along with the content management system, they have the ability to publish events or publish news in kind of a similar interface. They give it a name, they can give it a date of the event, specify the time, give it a publish date. So they can go ahead and publish, they could start publishing now for the big event in December if they wanted to. They can create their own web page if they want, which goes through the whole page templating system as well. They can upload a file, which could be a Word document, PDF, JPEG, WordPerfect document, or they can go and enter the URL for maybe it's part of a nationwide student organization that they're attending in DC or somewhere. The keywords they can plug in to work with our search engine. In the summary, they can give a brief description of the event. When they submit that, and if with the event calendar and the news calendar, students have the ability on that post-login page to receive email notifications about if a student organization updates news or events, they receive that information via email, much like an RSS feed would look like. So the student organizations has its own calendar. There's two calendars within our site. There's a law school event calendar, and there's a student organization event calendar. As you can see, the Federal Society had a planning meeting on the 13th from 4 to 6. Clicking on that would actually take them to the event details. It also gets dumped into our upcoming events or news area of our website, which is where a lot of students or faculty and staff go as well. So we define this as a success. We've had complete buy-in from the student organizations. They can manage when they want to manage. They have that consistent look and feel. They don't really have to worry so much about design, and they're really focused on just getting their content out to their audiences. It's completely dynamic, and from what I've heard, because my office is kind of in the stairwell, they're very happy that they have the ability to manage their own content and be back online. And that's it. That's all you get from me. Because it's almost 2, and you want to go outside. Any questions? Yes.
Since Dax is struggling up there, I work with Dax. One thing that's happened with news and events, it's been a huge spillover effect, is that people who come to the law school's website really see the fullness of the school. You don't have to go to the student section to see that SBA is working with Habitat this weekend. Those things get incorporated into other law school news and events. And he always had this, it was a struggle. I didn't know this was happening, or they never told me they were working with Habitat this weekend. Very positive response, and alums have been responding positively, saying that we're happy to know that so much is going on. And
I think, just to comment from him, whatever model you use, that becomes ultimately, I think, are a fun, because they really excite the. We're always looking for more dollars. So whatever model you use, the better your organization websites are, ultimately the better your school is going to be. So there are, in my perusal of a lot of law school websites, there are a lot of us out there still who have no control over their organization websites in any manner. So hopefully this will be an encouragement for those of you who aren't controlling in any way to start doing that, because you really will reap the benefits of it.
Thank you.
In the next session.
I'm actually in the process of breaking our student organization because it doesn't fit. It's definitely, like you've been saying, everybody's got their own fun. The big problem is that the main university is supposed to help post it. Yeah, it takes 3 months to go by and nobody gets back to them, so they're coming to me, and so I'm going to set up users and allow them to go in and create pages. Okay, I'll sort of oversee it. I'm not involved in it. And ultimately, we want to use that the day-to-day. But it's kind of to show who those business needs are. Yeah, so the market cap, if you can, you still take control of your website. Better to do with the non-competitive. I think that's what really. I'm the guy who's supposed to. Oh, am I? I didn't. I
just got on the update. We've been doing it. Working hard. Working hard. Oh, yeah. We ended up, actually, we're looking at it as a law school. We've been pushing them for a long time.
So the whole university.
We got the university to buy it. We actually have been tested. We had a test server. We did all the work. And so we ended up getting a pretty good deal.
Now, did you wrap it around your existing? You didn't use their templates, or did you wrap
Well,
it?
we're going to make our own.
Okay.
We have everything rolled out yet. We're still implementing. We did 3 different departments. Let's go and just take their content over and say,
See, that's a nice thing for us.
every time something is outdated,
Yeah.
somebody says, how holistic the law school is outdated. Back in the meeting, and I'm sitting there. Everybody looks at me.
I didn't even know we had a Martindale.
But it's on the web, so it's you.
Yeah, I think that's the inherent law.
I look at a lot of different ones.
Well, we got a real expensive one with our portal. We had a campus pipeline.
Then
And
when
they
you
rolled
see,
in,
you're taking the
they
previous
got
screws
screws
out.
out of it. It's the big guy. Oh, well, portal.
Everything works.
Yeah, this one. They dumped it down for the portal.
Just the ending.
And bad.
You know, I just think it's good to have this.
They spent, our university
Go
guys
out there.
We all really want this.
implementing this, trying to fix it, never worked right. I put a lot of pressure on them because we have an R&D inspection. I said, I need some kind of knowledge
But
management.
what probably
Illustrated we had documentation. We pushed it, and they brought something up that we can use to put all of our documentation there as far as internal policy procedures. And it's such a, everything, if we hadn't done that, the university would still be filling with this text. Because this is where we found out, okay, this thing sucks. Everything is on one directory level, everything. For an entire university. So finally, the head of Web Pulse Community Services for the university, like, this thing is trash. I don't know, should we get our money back? We should pay us for trying this out. And so we got their attention to look at Omni Update, which is one of these other companies.
Yeah, I like
That went on the fast track.
Right on,
Yeah.
you know, like the secretary, it's like right on the webpage, she has to deal with those secretaries. So I'm hoping that they'll, that's a good idea, we have a calendar, but our case, like, the law there.
We did the same thing with the calendar system that we have. It's still great shucks. Okay. Web event. You can do a lot of cool stuff. And, we've been pushing them, again, the law school's been pushing them to get a decent calendar system. Well, now the president said, university must be on a single calendar. And they took our web event. Again, we hosted it, the test bed, we did all this stuff. Our web guys, the guy with root access to everything. It's kind of nice. Pull the university along.
That's been my point the whole year. I'm the liaison with the campus. But my thing is use us. We're small, we have our own IT staff. You can use us and multiple things. And we've been doing it a lot.
There's another calendar or something else.
Yeah.
And then
Well, everything now is small.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh,
Our world.
but it's to get them all.
I don't do anything
the other ones.
that's really dangerous. So,
You have to do it once at a
Well, if
time.
you're cooperating with them, they know what you're up to. If you bring the system down, you're really sorry, and they know who did it.
Well, great, I'm glad I used your quote then.
It
It was the best one of all the people that were.
It was true.
It was the best one that ever, all the quotes on.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's like,
Gotta push it that way, yeah.
yeah, I'd rather, you're right, do it one automatic.
Publish once, yeah.
I work for this law school. As the audiovisual person. I'm sure that's a project in itself. It is, yeah. Well, you too, take care. There's not. Okay, you probably want to get connected in. Yep, there we go. And we probably do. We'll go to. I don't know if you like this or not. I don't know if I like it or not. So. Still think too much light. Yeah, no. I think that just is probably better. Readability. Still be enough lighting for your camera, or do you need more light?
have ceiling mics. Everyone should probably.
Don't like these mics because you can't walk away from home of where they pick you up and after that. Looks simple enough to me, but
Yeah, we've been thinking about it for a few years. It hasn't come through yet. We don't use them?
they have. Maybe if they want to do one thing, they
You record them.
we have with. So far, we only opened it up last. Yeah, let me break this right. The judge. So he has a touchpad, but he's never, nobody has ever controlled it, so.
Do you have screens that come down, or you have?
In the courtroom, we have 3 plasmas.
We do. Wow.
Then we have some monitors. Judges bench, and then we do have one screen, but the screen goes down.
Yeah.
Where there are columns every 20. Deal with columns.
But you wouldn't put that screen down if the judges are right there, right?
Well, we haven't, but if you had to, then they have their monitor. But
Okay, so you project it onto the monitor.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We have TVs in the ceiling. If we want to be.
Yeah. Again, we could give the jury video quality on the monitor isn't necessary.
Yes,
I was going to say, it seems like maybe there is great light to you know. Mostly data.
先生、アンチョコこっちに移しときますか、
こっち
私の方に。
あ、そうね、印刷、
印刷だけでいいですか、
え
印刷のだけでいいですか。
印刷どこに行ったの
ここにありますか。
誰か来るのかな誰も。あれはこの人
え
先生の
奥さんですよ。
えうちの家内の
あそこがのとこ
メール待ってたけど来なかったんだ。
すいません、私の自分のプレゼンで代わりになってしまって、
余裕なかっ
はい、全然、昨日が3時起きで準備をして、今日は2時起きで準備をするという状況で、かなり焦ってしまいました。でも今日は今日で、突然ネットワークが使えなくなってしまって、インターネットで使うデータベースをお持ちしようと思ったんですけど、それができなくて、焦っていました。
何時
はい。
夕方
いや、ネットワークですか？ネットワークは使いたんですけれども、ちょうど自分のプレゼンの30分台が来たので、
桜井と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。どうも。
拝聴させていただきます。よろしくお願いします。
あ、どうぞ。先生は
現在はアンドレス先生とベランタキーラ先生に、トーマス・アンドレス先生と専門家的に学校のベランタキーラ先生。
あ、そう。何 JD なの LLM なの
LLM は去年終わりまして、こちらに進学をしまして、PhD に進みました。はい。
JD は取らないの
GD は取らずに帰ってできれば仕事したいと思ってるんですけども、そこによりまして、そこで修士終わった後に、後でやることになったんですけども、日が終わったら仕事したいと思ってます。
それで、あれ、リズムどここっちとこっちの両方に。
その前の方でいいじゃない。